You're listening to the Current Plays Podcast. Season 3, Episode 8, Alma Mater. And now please welcome your hosts, Jordan and Thomas. And welcome back, voracious listeners. Hope you brought those appetites for knowledge, because this week we're talking about Alma Mater. Now, this is a game by, this is a little bit unique. It's by a design team that goes by the name of Achitoka, which in Italian is apparently a pun that translates into whose turn is it?
Didn't know this.
Yeah. So
That's
this
awesome.
design team is made up of Flamino Brasini, Virgino Gigli, Stefano Luperto, and Antonio Tino. And this is published by Eggertspiel. And Thomas, this was your pick this week, so why don't you tell us how Alma Mater plays?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, Alma Mater is a game where you're trying to, I guess, earn points by spreading knowledge. So you are playing a university. You're collecting books of your color, your opponent's color, and then dictionaries as well, which happen to be yellow. And then hiring professors to come to your university and give lectures. Now, how that actually plays out, you have sort of a reputation track on the one side of the board. You have various students that you can hire to come into your, I guess, that are in the campus section of the board, that you can bring back to your player bar. You also have the academy section of the board where all the professors are held. They're all worth varying amounts of victory points, and then have let's say tappable actions that they can take, as long as you can pay the book costs for them, right? And then they're worth, I think I mentioned, they're worth victory points as well. Yeah, varying points, I said. And then basically throughout the game, you're trying to earn money so that you can do some of the actions, collect those books, to spend those books to bring professors, hire or bring students, I guess hire professors, bring students, and do various things to earn yourself victory points by the end of the sixth rounds. This game's played over, I believe it's six. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, whoever has the most victory points wins the game at that point. It's yeah, it's a worker placement. So you start off with your I guess workers. They're masters. That's what they call them. That's right. I'm looking at the reference to the components as I'm speaking. So they give you these workers that are your masters. You send out to the board at the various worker placement positions, and then do the things that I had mentioned prior as well, right? So
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit of a bunch of different actions that you can do, but it's in a nice sort of thinky package that you gotta really manage a lot of kind of essentially the biggest things is your cash flow in, and then your collection of books. And when I say books, I had mentioned it briefly. So when you play a game, each opponent gets a specific color of books. So in a two-player game, you actually played with a third sort of dummy character that just blocks spaces from the basically the board.
Mhm.
And each of those players, including the dummy player, will have their own colored books. In our specific game, I had the red books, you had the black books, the dummy player had the green books. And then there's the fourth set of books, which was the dictionaries in yellow that I mentioned. And then you're collecting these, and depending on how far you move up the research track, those colors of books will be designated as books that you have to spend to hire or to bring in students. And the way that works, it's really neat. I like this kind of concept is each student, so you have different faculties. So you might have like the art students and the professors are the same as well. So you'll have the art students and professors, you'll have the math students and professors, the I think there's the medical and then the law students and professors, right? And when you're hiring or I keep saying hiring just because you're bringing them to your board, but when you're bringing in those students from the campuses, you have to spend a various amount of book costs, and those book costs are relative to the order at which the books are presented in the research track. And that track gets set every round based on what opponent is the highest on that research track. So the higher you are, the closer to the first position your colored book will be. And then each student might say something like, okay, you have to spend a level one book and a level two book. While whoever's in the first position in that on that research track, their colored book, that's the level one books, and then the level two would be who's in the next highest position and so on, right? So that jostles from round to round. So it might be okay, level one books are red this round, and then level one books are green the next round, kind of thing, right? And so you have to sort of try and manage that so that the books that you're able to pay with are available to you so you can get those students and you can get those professors as well. And then on the professor side of things, essentially there's a couple worker spots you can go to and hire these professors. If you're the first to hire a professor, you have to pay a gold cost and then various colors of books in your choice of how you want to do that. So it'll show you like, okay, you have to do two of one color book, one of another, and one of a third. And you have an option of, okay, say it was I'm buying the professor. Well, I have more red books because I'm the red player. So I'm going to use red as those two, and then I'm going to use a green book because I've collected one of those and maybe a dictionary as the yellow one. And that's now set as the cost to hire that specific professor. And yeah, this is it's kind of like that, like I said, you're managing those books. It's much easier to collect your own colored books. It's harder to collect your opponents. And not that it's necessarily harder. Um, it is, but it's because you actually have to pay them for their books. And that's assuming that they're also putting their books up for sale. Now, there's an incentive to do that because at the end of the round, you earn income for any books that you've placed in your library. So, I say for sale. I'm using the wrong terms here, but it's you're borrowing books from their library to have colors of their textbooks kind of thing, right? Um,
Yeah, which
yes.
yeah serves as your income for the next round. So if your opponent is buying books off you, then you're getting paid up front for those. But then also your opponent gets victory points when they do that. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a nice back and forth trade-off there.
And I always feel like when we play this one, this is the second time we played this. I actually picked this up at Breakout Con last year for super cheap. Like it was a shrink copy. I think there was like three shrink copies there, each for like $20 or less. Actually, I had one copy in my hand that wasn't shrinked for 15, and I was like, well, if there's a $20 one, I might as well grab the one that has shrink on it and just, pay the extra five, and then I'm not taking the chance that it's missing something or whatever. Now,
Right.
component wise, you got a ton of components in here. Even if you were missing like a book or two, you'd never notice. But yeah, it was a steal for $20. What you get in this game and the components you get and just the gameplay, I Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I don't know. We've played this twice now. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, what are my thoughts on this one? They're hard to express.
Sure.
Um, it's a very I would say it's a complicated Euro for sure. Um, y in the sense you really have to plan ahead. You have to plan out your turns, make sure that you're going to have enough resources to get the things that you want to get. And again, you can just get blocked. Like this game, I had everything. I'm like, okay, I need this space and this space, and I'm good, right? But then, the dummy player, every round that I was needed these spaces, those are the spaces the dummy player blocked.
Yeah,
It was unbelievably frustrating. Um, I think I might get more enjoy. It's gonna sound bad. I think I might enjoy this game more if I wasn't playing you.
fair enough. Yeah.
You're just so frustrating to play against.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think I was ahead of you on the research track like the first round maybe,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
never again.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one too, you get like a variable starting power at the start of the game. So that it takes the form of these chancellors. So two chancellors are set on the main board that are sort of kind of like unlockables once you reach a certain goal. And then there's you place out a number of extra chancellors, players plus one, right? And then the players get to pick from those in I think it's reverse turn order, or maybe turn
No,
order.
it was turn
It
order.
was turn
Yeah,
order.
you
Okay,
got to
yeah,
place first
yeah.
or
So
pick
you
first.
pick those in turn order, and then the third one goes onto the board and becomes another unlockable one, right?
Right.
So everything in this game, in a two-player game, there's two of everything. So each player has access, uh, potentially, to everything. It's just you there's so much stuff that you'll vary what you end up picking.
Hmm.
But those kind of chancellors are unlockable right at the start. The three, they're difficult to unlock. Like you have to, for example, one of them in our game was you had to reach three milestones on the research track. Well, that is moving up the research track. Uh, 12 positions, I think. Yeah, 12 positions, which okay, 12, that doesn't make any sense when we don't see the board, right? But at each, if you think about, each
It's
one of those positions costs some sort of resource and is an
yeah.
action to move up,
Yeah.
right? So you can imagine that by the time either of us reached that, it was probably round four, maybe, right? So you're already
Well,
halfway through
it's
the game.
3/5 of the way up, like up the entire track, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. So
you're going to be more than halfway through the game before you get there, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So and each one of those sort of objectives to unlock those chancellors are difficult, right? They're not things you're going to
Mm.
get first turn and then your opponent's not going to get for three rounds later or something, right? That's not going to happen. Um, but yeah, so you get that variable power, and the one I ended up getting was one that allowed me to pretty much ignore other people on the worker
Yeah.
placement spots, right? So it really unlocked a lot of, I guess, adaptability for my play. Something was somewhere and I could ignore it. I can be like, okay, you can't go there. And I can go there later, right? And that's not exactly the case because the way this works is if you're the first to that action, you play one worker. If you want to take that action, if an opponent wants to take that action, they have to play one more worker than basically you've played, right? The one more than the highest number of a single color on that spot, right? So in a two-player game with three different colored meeples moving around, because like I said, the opponent plays them too, you'd have to play, like say I took an action, rather the opponent takes the action because they always act first every round. And then I wanted to, typically I'd have to play two workers there. And then if you wanted that action, you'd have to play three. Now you only get four workers per round. You
Hmm.
can up that to six, but again, like those objectives that you can complete, unlocking workers takes a while to do. It's multiple rounds before you can get to a position to do that. So using three workers early on to grab a spot, it's insane. Using two workers is punishing.
And, unless you're playing really well,
Hmm.
you're probably using one of those workers to get some money, and you're using another one of those workers to get some books.
Yeah.
And then you're using those money and books to do the actual things that you need to do. You're trying to do like recruit students or hire the professors, right? So if you have to use two workers to take one action, that's the only action you're probably taking that round.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And this one I find it's very difficult to both collect money and collect books. And you need money to collect books, but you need those books to really do anything else. If you want
Hmm.
students, you need books. If you need books, you need money. If you want professors, you need books. If you need books, you need money, right? So it's a very hard thing to manage, especially in a worker placement with limited spots to go, because there's only
Yeah.
so many ways to earn money. Um,
Well, and
spec-
this is the thing. I don't know how you're doing it because it's like out of the gate. So my starting like resource cards that I was picking, I picked so that I could have enough books because that I wanted to go for the four Ducat income tile right away. So I don't think we've mentioned that the students that you're recruiting, they give some kind of bonus.
Mhm.
So they might they might give you an extra action slot, or they might let you buy your own books, or they might give you a bonus where when one thing happens, you get something extra with it, like different things like that. And then the more expensive students will actually give you a bonus point or like point goals, basically. So you kind of build up this engine almost in your tableau with these various bonuses that these students are giving you. And depending on how you collect those students, right, your engine's going to work better or worse. And there's, I think there's one student that gives a four Ducat income. There's one student that gives one Ducat income and a dictionary. And I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
there's one other student that'll give you a one Ducat income. So at most, you're looking at six Ducats per round income, plus then what you've got in your library. So if you've got all of those, then I guess you're doing pretty well. But it takes it would take quite a while to get to that point.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like I said, I had sort of tried to gear myself up to get that four Ducat income tile on round one. I didn't get it the entire game. It just never
Mm.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It, what I found different this time around, so that aspect is, trying to collect the money and the ducats, and then trying to collect the books. The first time we played this, I had a different power, and it was a much different strategy in doing that. I felt like some rounds were just strictly these are gold collecting rounds, and then
right.
others were these are book collecting rounds, or everything was like some collection of gold and then pick one color of book, that's what I'm getting this round. And then pick one color of book next round, that's what I'm getting, right?
Hmm.
Now with the player ability I had this time around, I could do everything at once because I didn't have to ever worry about spots being taken, right? So it was like, okay, I can go here, I can get some money, I can go buy those books right now, and then I can go over here, and it's still open this spot to buy these books over here or whatever, right? Open because I could go there regardless if there was, workers there, right? So that not having to work on that, I was able to in this play um, build sort of a gold engine for the first, let's say 4 rounds, 3, 4 rounds. And then it was putting that into place to then grab some. I got an earlier professor, but like grabbing some of the higher point scoring professors, or at least ones that triggered some of the goals or one of the goals there
Right.
so that I'd have okay I have this professor another one and then you add those points up and it was I scored quite nicely on that and it was I it really came down it made it much simpler being able to share those spaces without
Yeah.
having an extra cost to it, right?
I thought my not but
Yeah.
is it the
Counselor, yeah, or
council?
no,
My
Chancellor was right.
starting
Yeah,
player power
yeah, yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
pretty good. Um, there's a spot where you can go to just get money. You
Hmm.
go there, you get an income.
And you have to go there multiple times during the game.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
just have to. Yeah,
So you place one meeple, you'll get, I think it's two
yeah,
coins. If you
yep,
place two, you get five.
yeah. Five.
And if you
Yep,
place three, you get eight.
yeah.
Well, my power let me, whatever I placed, it counted as one more, once per round. And then there was a student on the board that basically gave you an extra coin per meeple that you placed there. So, right. So then when I put one meeple down, now that's counting as two. So now I'm in that five slot, but then I'm getting two extra because that one counts as two. So I was getting seven coins for just placing one meeple instead of two. That's a big bonus.
It was a combo I didn't even see, and you pulled it off first round, and I was like, "Oh wow, that is scary." And so, yeah, what a great combo. Yeah.
So I was thinking like I don't have to worry about money this whole game. Well, guess what? I still had to worry about money. Um, but yeah, I don't it, it's a game that again, I feel like if I could sit down and play this one back to back multiple times and try out different strategies and, just try to grok the game a little more, I think I might unlock it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just really good at like getting it right away, you know? Um,
It's funny you say that. Like I've always found that I have with a lot of things actually, a very quick pickup of, general. I'll go in, I'll play a game or a video game, anything like that, and I'll pick things up really quick. But then I always find that I plateau really, really quickly too. Like I pick it up and I'm plateauing, right? And I always find that people that slowly build to that level always end up surpassing though for whatever reason I never seem
hmm,
to move up once that initial plateau is hit and then I watch others just kind of pass and it's a point of frustration at that point. It's great when you're jumping from things to things all the time because it
yeah, yeah.
seems like Thomas is amazing at things or whatever. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, give it a few more times though, and you'll be like, oh wow, I'm much better at this kind of thing, right? So yeah, but I've noticed that quite a lot in just in my life in general, right?
Hmm.
So it's yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'll pick things up quick, but maybe like a surface level of, yeah, he knows what he's doing really well, but it may be smoke and mirrors. I don't know.
Well, another part of this game I find is you really have to pay attention to where you're getting your points from.
Yeah.
So I I was trying to do that, but at the same time it was so difficult to get books, to get the books that I
Hmm.
needed, that it was hard to like I'm struggling just to get the students that I want. So then I'm like, well, maybe I should be going after the professors, maybe I should be doing this, maybe I should be doing that. And I was looking at uh, the extra points that the professors are giving you that I completely forgot about like the base way to score points,
Sure. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I was like, well, if I'm not going to get a bunch of students, I'll try this one. So I went for one of those big professors, right? And I got an extra 10 points out of that one. It would have been nice to get her a round or two earlier, and maybe I could have got more
Dumping gold
points,
into
right?
it and earning more points. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you score points for a bunch of different ways at the end of the game, and they're all sort of connected, right?
Yeah.
So you've got how far, like how many milestones you've got on the research track, times the number of professors you've got, and then each professor is worth their own number of points. And then there's a really interesting one where as you're getting the students, there's two rows for the students, and you're going to put them in top row, then bottom, then top, then bottom, and at the end of the game, you multiply the number in the top by the number on the bottom. So, if you can fill those rows, that's amazing points. And of course, your engine's building as you do that. And but like I said, I was struggling, and the reason I was struggling to get the students is because I couldn't keep up with you on the research track. So your books were always worth more than
Yeah.
mine, and so like you didn't need my books because they were like the two or the three spot on the track, and you could just use the green books, and the in the dictionaries. Whereas like to buy any of the students, I had to have your books. So then I'm just feeding you gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I really like that concept of the basically we've mentioned you have this library and you're putting books on your player board. But it's a very interesting one, right? Because especially with the dummy player. So when you earn books of your own color, you have the option as soon as you earn them to either keep them sort of in your inventory or to put them up into that library where others can buy them off you, right? And you put them from right to left in this library section on each of these shelves. And the more books you have up there, the cheaper. There's like this supply and demand. You have more supply, so they become cheaper to the opponent to buy, right? So your leftmost spot is 2 gold, and someone can buy that off of you, right? Versus your rightmost spot is 4 gold for that one book, right? So your opponent's got to buys from left to right, and you fill from right to left, right? So if you only fill a few books in, your books are very expensive to purchase. But then during the end of the round, when you're collecting coins for filling that library, you're earning less coins because you get 1 coin per book you still have in your library, right? So it incentivizes you to have more books and makes it cheaper for your opponents to buy books. But at the same time, your opponent is paying you for those books. So even if they're only paying you two, that's 2 coins more than you had, at, at the prior turn, kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
So, and I couldn't ever imagine paying 4 coins for them. But if you really needed that book to make a play, I guess, right? Now the dummy player essentially at the start of the round, the dummy player flips a card. and it will tell them, what spaces on the board, what spaces on the board to block. And then it also tells you, how many books it's putting up in its library, and how many spots it's moving up on the research track. So it's always trying to essentially race you on the if you're not moving on the research track, the dummy player is, so you're
Yeah.
falling behind, right? Um, and so what I find neat and what often is important about going first, especially in a two-player game, is that there's one spot on the board to purchase books from your opponents, right? And in order to take that spot, now, mind you, it's a spot that doesn't get blocked. So you can place one meeple there. An opponent can place a meeple. You can go back there on your next turn. Your opponent can go back there. When typically, you'd only place, and once you're on a spot, you can't place there again. And neither can your opponents unless they pay more workers, right? So this spot opens you up. So right away on the last turn, I needed multiple colored books. I had a bunch of mine. But I needed green books and I needed black books in order to hire some professors, and I was trying to hire two professors on the last round. So right away, my first turn was to go to the spot to buy, and I bought the first three books off of the dummy player, right? So
Hmm.
the first three spots were 2 gold, 2 gold, and 3 gold. So I paid a total of 7 gold, and I got the first three spots. Now, I did this because if you needed those green books, which you may have, you then have to go to that spot, and the next, there's only 6 books that are up there, and those next three books were worth 3, 3, and 4. So right away, that's a crazy difference in gold cost or ducat cost
Yeah.
compared to what I just paid for three, right? And then I waited as long as I could in that round, to which, because of my ability, I was able to do, um, before going to that spot again and then buying books off of you. And I did the same thing. I bought your first three books, spent 7 gold, and then that seven I actually had to physically pay to you, right? But I waited as long as I could because I didn't want you to have those gold until you couldn't really use it, right?
Hmm.
Once you had started putting your plans in motion and then had to spend gold and were short gold and whatever, I didn't want to pump you up beforehand, right? And then because of that ability, I was able to go, okay, I bought all the books. Now I can go to the professor spots, which one of them's already been blocked and the other one's open. Well, I'm going to go to the open one to make it harder for you because I know you probably want to get some professors this round as well, right? So then I
Yep.
blocked that spot. And then on a subsequent turn, I went to the high professor one that only had one worker, was able to go there with just my singular worker and take another professor that way, right? So it was kind of this combination of being able to go first, taking all the books to make them more expensive for you to take, then waiting to pay for your books, and then taking, those spots away from you and whatnot for that last round. That really made a big impact on how many points I was able to score in that last round. And at least how many things I was able to bring in to facilitate more point growing, right? So yeah, it was I like the library concept though, I guess is where I was really going with that, is having access to, and imagine in a 4-player game. I suppose this kind of acts like a 3-player game with the dummy player, but in a max 4-player game, um I think this plays up to 4. I don't think it does 5. Now I'm questioning myself there. I believe it only does 4, but in a 4-player game, yeah, you'd have access to, different bookshelves, right? 3 different bookshelves instead of just, 2 other ones in a 3-player. Though now that I'm saying this too, I know the board actually flips over and has a 4-player board
Hmm.
setup. So I suspect maybe there's more color of books you have to pay to to earn professors and bring students as well. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's but it's all just a balancing act of when to do what when. Because if I didn't have that power, I would have had to juggle of, okay, I have to get these books, but I also need to get a professor, so I got to get there before anybody takes that spot. Or because the dummy player's already on one of those spots, I got to save back two of my masters to be able to go there. And now all of a sudden I can't play somewhere else and earn points somewhere else or whatever, right? So yeah, it was a very there's a lot that goes into the planning of it, and because it's worker placement, you get best laid plans, right? Like
Yep, yep.
you have a plan, somebody takes your spot, you got to think of another plan, right?
Oh man, and like talk about planning the research track. The research track, I don't know how the setup goes because those five like tiers on the research track are done with cards, so they're not always the same.
Yeah.
But at least in this game at the beginning, it's like you either have to pay some cost or have met some condition, but the condition's hard to meet. And sometimes
Hmm.
you're like, I'd rather just pay the cost than try and meet this condition. Or you've got the ability to move up now. So, you know, but then as you move up and you're paying these costs or whatever, when you hit the milestone, you'll get a nice bonus. But it's not like here's a free thing you need. It's like one example was get a professor without having to pay the gold cost or the ducat cost, right? It's like, okay, that's huge, but you still have to have the books. And so you got to time like, okay, when am I gonna, move up and have these conditions or these costs met, but also have enough held back that I can make use of this to get this professor. And, it just, that is a lot of planning.
Yeah.
And you did a good job of like actually making use of all those bonuses, whereas I just like couldn't make that work. And so I was losing out on all the gains from the research track.
Yeah, that first milestone, you went up and you were like, yeah, I can't really take it. So, but it was one of those things that like, do you give up on the movement up the research track, or do you give up on the milestone bonus? Well,
Right.
you got to weigh it at that time, and it was in your best interest to go up at that time and get you farther up the track, right? Um, it just,
Yeah.
I matched it, I think, was able to get there as well. But I can't even remember first round where we set up with the books. I think you might have been.
I think
I think you
I
were.
I
Yeah,
was
you were the
ahead
highest. Yeah,
after round one, but
yeah,
for the rest of the game, you pulled ahead for sure.
yeah. And so this is how that's set up, and I like the way they do this too, from a design
1 minute
perspective.
left.
Oh wow, yeah. Okay, so be quick. Yeah. So basically you have, A cards, B cards, C cards, D cards, all the way up to the top of that track.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you shuffle all the A's, you flip one, you shuffle all the B's, so that the track is sort of progressive like that, which is really nice. You do the
Yeah, that's
same
good.
thing for like um Chancellor cards. You have A goals, B goals, C goals, and you do that kind of thing, right? And then the final thing to touch on quickly was to start the game. You start with these. You draft these cards for resources, and then that determines turn order based on whoever has the less powerful cards. But I
Yeah.
really, really like that aspect because you get to choose really what you start with. As far as resources are concerned, sometimes points is nice, but then early on you can spend those points to move up the research track. So it's this really balanced. But yeah, I really dig this game. It's another one of the Italian designer games that, top marks for me.
And that wraps up another episode of the Current Plays podcast. Check us out next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast provider. But until then, good gaming and good night.
Good night, folks.